Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner Circle Sports Betting Podcast. It's Thursday, November 17th, a week away from Thanksgiving. Wow. Where does the time fly? Anyway, like every Thursday, we're privileged by having Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com join us, and he's here again. Hi, Doug. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ross, and I think you're way overstating. Okay, privilege. No. The honor is mine to be in your presence,
Uh,
along with all the wonderful people that stop by to say hello to us and check us out each and every Monday and Thursday.
Well, I echo those sentiments, not to be in my presence, but mutual respect. And I also enjoy all the viewers out there and appreciate them all. And speaking of which, folks, we're over 8,500 subscribers now on our YouTube channel and couldn't be happier. And it continues to grow. But if you have not subscribed already, take a second to do so. It's absolutely free. There's no strings attached, there's no hidden agenda. There's no subscription plans. Absolutely 100% free to listen in on some of the best handicappers in the country, including myself and Doug and guys like Sean Higgs from picksandparleys.net, who's been having an absolutely phenomenal National Football League season. And also Jesse Schul, formerly of covers.com, now of picksandparleys.net as well. And Big Al McMorty of bigal.com, a guy who's been around, it seems like forever and a day. That makes me feel young when I say that. So anyway, Doug.
Yeah, and he's younger than both of us.
Yeah, I know. He's been doing it since I think the mid. I told him when you started, you were little Al. Now you're Big Al. So
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
anyway, Doug, any interesting notes you want to touch upon in the world of sports betting
Yes.
before we
Well,
get
actually,
to it?
there is, Ross, and but I'm gonna flip the script on you this time. Now, normally I'm always the one that brings up weather. I'm gonna send it to you this week, and the reason I'm curious about because I mean you're not right there, but you're in the neck of the woods of where Buffalo is playing this weekend, and we've heard since Monday about all the snow that is, that's I think it's already started to fall and
Yes.
is or coming more as the lake effect snow, and I'm familiar with that, having lived in Milwaukee for many years. So, what's the latest, Ross, and what's kind of going on? What are you thinking? And we can discuss some of the numbers that have changed.
Yeah. Number one, they're calling for anywhere from 3 to 6 feet, not inches, feet of snow in the Buffalo area, specifically so in the Orchard Park area, which is a suburb of Buffalo, and in downtown Buffalo, etc., in that surrounding area. I'm 65 miles away, and it's amazing, Doug. We may get 5 or 6 inches this weekend compared to what they get, but that's the norm. There's times they get 6 to 8 inches and we get nothing. Anyway, getting back to what's relevant in terms of this game coming up against Cleveland, they're talking about moving it to Detroit. A couple different reasons why. Number one, they're worried about fans trying to get to the game. And if you know anything about the Bills Mafia, Buffalo fans, it doesn't matter what the weather is, they'll try to get there, regardless of putting their safety in jeopardy. Number two, I do believe, and it won't, I don't think you'll ever get Sean McDermott or Brandon Bean to come out and say it, but Cleveland possesses the better run game. And what conditions like that, you virtually take the passing game right out of the equation. Now, if you look at Buffalo's rushing statistics, they're a bit skewed because a lot of that, over half of that, is coming from Josh Allen, the quarterback, either by design run, most times and not by where he's improvising, having to scramble and taking off. So I'd be shocked if this game takes place in Buffalo, but you never know. And if it does, I really don't like the Bills in this situation. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say they're going to lose the game straight up, but I wouldn't be shocked if that happens as well, just because of the reasons I alluded to, Doug.
Sure. Yeah. Here's what puzzles me about the game, and maybe it's just because the focus has been on a different topic, but the total opened, at least where I saw, opened at 47, and as soon as the news broke, that all the snow's coming, I think it was yesterday. Excuse me. It was down to 41.5 is what I saw.
Yeah.
But yet, oddly enough, the total went up to 42 or 42.5. I saw about an hour ago, so that was a little peculiar. So, but then the most compelling thing to me though, Ross, was Buffalo hasn't moved off the 8.
No.
It's still 8.
Yeah.
And when you think of a game, that going from I'll just use generalizations here, even from 47 to 41,
Uh-huh.
it would seem like the favored team or maybe the underdog would be reduced. Okay, it would just make sense because it would be hard to maintain that. And I know key numbers in totals don't mean as much as what they used to make when they were pretty standardized.
Yep.
But still, you're going under if it does end up at 42 or going under 42. That's a fairly significant number change, and yet the total. So I mean, I guess I'm expecting the Buffalo to come down maybe as it gets closer to the weekend, and maybe it's just because nobody has cared one way or the other about the side because of the snow and they're focused on the total. But I just find that somewhat odd. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me what you think about that.
I think because of the uncertainty of the situation, there hasn't been much. I would venture to say and go out on a limb. There's probably the least amount of action on the point spread in this game than any game on the NFL board. That's again. It's an educated guess on my part. I haven't
Right.
spoke to sports book managers, whatever have you, but that's my guess. I know when I looked at this game, I said, "There's no way I'm touching it because." I don't know what the weather is going to be like. I don't know where it's going to be played. And too much. When I get so much uncertainty like that, I turn away. Now, the total, in my opinion, anyway, Doug, and I'd be interested to hear your take on whether this makes sense, is they abruptly made that change in the total that had nothing to do with money, like you alluded to. It was totally had to do with the weather forecast. And to make that kind of adjustment, it's a strong weather forecast. They're saying 3 to 6 feet of snow, even if it's 2 feet of snow. And they underestimated the amount of snow to fall. That's still a lot of snow. Now it goes back up to 42.5. Why? My guess is there's that possibility the game's going to be moved to Detroit. This happened back in 2014 when they played the Jets. They were scheduled to play the Jets at home. Big snowstorm in Buffalo. The game got canceled on Sunday, moved to Detroit on Monday. Now you're going indoors. Now that takes on a whole different animal when it comes to the total. So again, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, but that's my take. And again, Doug, it's strictly opinion. There's nothing that I have concrete that I could say this is definitively why.
Right. No. I would agree. I mean, yeah. I mean, the reasoning that you're giving makes total sense. Everything seems to line up properly, for that. I guess I just was surprised that nothing happened,
Yeah,
on a side, one way or the other. I would agree that the action is probably very light,
yeah,
from that standpoint, and not giving them any motivation to move off the number. So I just one of those things that tends to one of those betting angles that tends to be fascinating in trying
yes,
to understand what's going on. You
yeah,
know what? And
you,
I also understand most people wouldn't give a crap.
yeah,
Just me being me.
yeah, yeah. I just know it's a legitimate question, and it certainly makes sense to ask that. But again, we go back to last week with the line movement on the Buffalo game, and you were 100% correct. You said, Ross, I think they came down to 3.5. They're not leaving themselves vulnerable because if Josh Allen ends up playing, then they move it back to 6.5 and they don't get caught in the middle. If Josh Allen doesn't play, the line goes down to a pick 'em game, maybe. So you were right on with that as well. But again, we can only speculate as to why there's no line movement on the point spread, but there is on a total. And I think we're both right on. I think we're not far off, either one of us, when assessing this game. My thing is for the viewers out there, folks. There's how many other games on the board in the NFL on Sunday? Now, if the game moves to Monday and it's in Detroit, now that takes on a whole different scope, right, Doug? Now we look at it differently. So, anyway, Doug, tell the folks how you've been doing of late before we get to our free picks. By the way, Doug will be covering the. I'm interested to hear this: the Cowboys and the Vikings game, which is a real intriguing matchup. I'll be covering the Jets in New England. Doug, tell the folks, fill the folks in on all the news going on at Doc Sports involving Doug Upstone.
Yes, that's right. It's at docsports.com. And 51 years in business. I have not been there 51 years. Sometimes I might look like I have been, but no, that's not the case. But no, it's have had a number of things going well, and it started the week and it's continuing. Ross, college basketball, 3 straight winners. Okay, this week been very selective so far in my approach. Actually, something I used to do is be extremely selective, and I decided this year to go back to that, and it's working. Hitting a little over 71% so far, just overall. So that's been very good. Hockey, 4 straight winners, 4 out of the last 6, or 6, excuse me, 6 out of the last 8. So that's been on a nice run.
Did you win any of those games in overtime?
I haven't had any. And so that's why I'm winning. Avoiding overtime. So by avoiding it, it lends itself to better results. Anyway, so that NBA is still continues to do well, 50-25, dating back to last season in the regular season. And this week, I haven't even finalized it yet because everything I'm a little behind here today, but I haven't finalized it. About 8 to 11 plays is what I'm looking at for the football card between NFL and college football. I know I got my best bets done. Got a 7-unit on Saturday, a 6-unit on Sunday, which are Doc's numbers as far as the higher rated best bets. So so I'm looking forward to a pretty good weekend just overall, Ross. And if we got a snow game to watch on Sunday, all the better. I think just for
maybe
entertainment.
Maybe Monday.
Well, yeah, that wouldn't be. Well, it might. I don't know what they do, what network that would be on. That would be interesting how they would do it.
It'll be on here locally,
right?
Probably in the Cleveland. Well, not probably. It'll be on the local Buffalo and Cleveland markets. But shame on you, Doug, if you don't have access to all the NFL games.
Oh, no, I do, but I mean, like for example, what time? Because they don't want to interrupt their ESPN game.
Right.
I wouldn't think.
So I would think
early start.
I would think that it'll be an early start, and probably at 7:00 Eastern time, if I recall correctly. That when they did this in Detroit in 2014, the game was moved to 7:00. So it might even be earlier because
I would think it'd be even earlier because they wouldn't want to interfere with that. Right. And then because ESPN's paying a lot of money now, for all this, and they got high priced announcers and all this. And the other element, though, to your point, is that decision then probably, in order to get all the equipment on the planes, to get to everything, that decision probably has to be made sometime tomorrow.
Imminent. If that's the case. It's got to be an imminent decision. Yes.
Right.
Within the next 24 hours. You're 100% correct, Doug. All right. So let's get to our free picks. By the way, folks, you can find me at rbwins.com. It's rbwins.com. After a rough weekend, I told you I'd bounce back 6-2 over the last 3 days in college basketball and the NBA. NBA right now, 58%, 46-32, dating back to last year, or 48-34, excuse me, dating back to last year, which is good for 59%. My college basketball 10-star top plays, 13-6, dating back to last year with my last 19 college basketball 10-star top plays, I should say. And again, the NFL, rough weekend, but still 35-27 for the season, 9-2 with my 10-star top plays. And I do have a game up on Thursday evening in the Thursday night matchup between Green Bay and Tennessee. If you see this in time, my NFL primetime selections, which are Sunday, Monday, and Thursday nights, 15-7 so far this season. That's good for 68%. So rbwins.com is where you can find me, docsports.com. for Mr. Doug Upstone. Doug, what do you got for us?
Okay, we're talking Dallas and Minnesota. And Ross, the first thing that jumps off to me at this game is that Minnesota is tied with Philadelphia for the best record of the NFL at 8-1. Dallas, off their stunning overtime loss to Green Bay, is 6-3. and they're also playing a second straight road game. Yet, despite this, the Cowboys, okay, are listed, depending on the sports book, either -1 or -1.5, which suggests on a neutral field that Dallas would be a 4-point favorite. Okay, a neutral field. So, why are the Vikings an underdog? Okay, so despite their record, the point differential for Minnesota is +35, which is tied for 8th in the NFL and behind Dallas, which is at +47. One stat that is I see increasingly used, just it's not that it has been used before, but it's being used, it seems like more, is yards per play. Okay. And a lot of people like to look at that. It's not a decider in terms of one way or another, but it gives you a relative, it gives you a view of the two teams. Dallas comes in at at plus 0.03. Minnesota is at minus 0.5. And that's right. Minnesota is being outgained despite their gaudy record by 25 yards per game. So how are Kirk Cousins and the Vikings doing it? Well, the turnovers. Okay, the thing we always hear about every single week. We think it's a cliche and all these announcers. That's all they talk about, but it's absolutely right. Minnesota, since losing to Philadelphia in week 2, is +8 and in turnover margin, and they're converting and getting points off those turnovers. But one thing in this one, Dallas is nearly their equal because they're at +6 on the season. So if Dallas doesn't turn the ball over, that changes some other things as to what can be going on in this game. And, Minnesota's run defense is very similar to Dallas. It's not particularly good. Okay. It's not great. And their pass defense is flat out awful. They're ranked 27th. Okay. In pass defense on the season. Now, the Vikings, Ross, I think you know this. I'm sure. In fact, I think I know you do. That as a home underdog, Minnesota's got a great record, 38-21 against spread long term. But yet, I'm looking at this one. Dallas is 19-8 against the spread since last season, and against defenses that are allowing 7 or more yards per passing attempt, Dallas is 10-2 against the number. And then for me, the clincher, Ross, the boys, after allowing 6 or more yards per play in their previous game, their next outing, 8-0 against the spread. Okay, yeah. Love that number. Ross, come Sunday night, I think I'll be saying, hey, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah, baby. Yeah, I mean, again, you're talking right up my alley, Doug. A 6-3 team going on the road against an 8-1 team. Dallas coming off an upset loss, Minnesota coming off an upset win. And you know what? Not only that, the urgency factor. You look at the division Minnesota's in right now, unless they lose out completely, they're going to win that division. I mean, look, you're in a division right now with 3 other teams that currently have a losing record, and I think the best of those records is 4-6, if I'm not mistaken. So by all intent and purposes, they're up 5 games with 8 games to play. So not a lot of urgency there. And then coming off an upset win, and also coming off a win in a statement game, that so-called statement game. Let's see how good you are when you go to Buffalo. Well, you won the game, but like Doug alluded to, 4 turnovers by Buffalo certainly helped their cause. Now, to Minnesota's credit, they still rang up 460 plus yards of total offense against a pretty good defense. So, look, this is a team with, in my opinion, with Super Bowl talent offensively, but not only are they 27th against the pass, they're 29th out of 32 teams in total defense. And let's not forget, who's number 1 in the NFL in sacks? The Dallas Cowboys with 35. Now, Minnesota protects the passer pretty good, but sometimes sacks don't account for the whole story. It's the pressure they put on quarterbacks, And Kirk Cousins has shown over the years, if you apply consistent pressure to him throughout a game, he'll make mistakes. So I can't. And Minnesota, by the way, the 7-game win streak they're on, all 7 wins have come by 8 points or less, which goes hand in hand to what Doug's talking about in points differential. So again, folks, solid pick by Doug Upstone. The Dallas Cowboys minus the 1.5 or 1. I would even myself, if I'm to play that game, I'll take the minus 120 or minus 125 on the money line and, pay the extra 10 cents because I don't want to push or a loss if they win by one. I want to win. So I can't speak for Doug on that. I don't know. What's your feeling on that, Doug, when it's a small point
Yeah,
spread?
I don't have any hard fast rules. Okay,
Okay.
it's whatever the situation is,
Sure.
from that standpoint. And yeah, I mean, I'm not a one. I probably wouldn't look at one because there's so few games that end with 1 point, and
Yep.
if
Yeah.
that would be my luck, that would be the case. But we've all been
Yeah. I
down
mean, the
that path
chances
before.
of it falling on one, yes, they're very slim. Yeah.
Right?
But
Yeah. So from that
it's
standpoint,
what are we talking? An extra 10 cents juice, $1,000
right? Yeah.
play, extra
Typically,
hundred
right.
bucks,
Yeah. Right.
to spend an extra 100, lose an extra 100 compared to losing an extra 1,100 if indeed it falls on one. It's
Yep.
the way I
Oh
look
yeah.
at it.
No,
But
your logic is correct.
yeah.
I agree with you.
All right, so the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's a solid selection from Mr. Doug Upstone, as always. And folks, I know that everybody likes to jump on people on this channel when they lose. Well, Doug went 2-0 last week. I had somebody comment on Doug's picks. I had to go off Zoom to tell him that to put up as much money as he wants with me. I'll bet on Doug compared to you next week. And I didn't hear any reply. Anyway, so the New York Jets and the New England Patriots, 1 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday. New England is -3. The Jets have been totally dominated in this series. Now, I know it's a new time, a new year. The Jets are much better. This version of the Jets are much better, obviously, than they've been in years past. But the fact remains, New England is 13-0 straight up and 9-4 against the spread in their last 13 against the New York Jets, and that's 6+ years. That includes the only meeting this season, which New England prevailed 22-17, on October 30th at the Jets. And they covered as a road favorite of -3. And also includes the fact that if New England is a favorite of 8.5 or 8 or less against the Jets, that's occurred 4 times during this 13-game win streak against their division rival. All 4 times they won and covered, and the average victory margin 19.7 points per game. Since 2016, since these teams have met in New England has gone 5-0 straight up in ATS. The average victory margin, 29.6 points per game. Now, having said all that, I fully realize the Jets are much better, and New England isn't the same team they were when they had Tom Brady. But you know what? Since Brady's been gone, they're still 5-0 against the Jets. Belichick still owns the Jets. And you got a New England team coming in with a 5-4 record. They're trailing the Jets at this point by 1 game in the AFC East standings, which, by the way, Doug, is all bunched up. 3 teams at 6-3 and 1 at 5-4. And the Jets coming off that upset win against Buffalo, and that improved their record to 6-3, like I just touched upon. Division home favorites, NFL division home favorites of 3 to 8.5 points, like the New England Patriots are. And they have a better than 500 record, New England at 5-4. They're facing an opponent with a win percentage of 700 or less. And New England, or the Jets, right now it's 666. And that opponent, meaning the Jets, is coming off a division home underdog straight up win. There's only been 6 occurrences that has occurred since 1998, not to repeat myself, but on all 6 occasions, the division home favorite of 3 to 8.5 in this exact scenario, 6-0 straight up and against the spread, and winning by 18.3 points per game. Doug, I'm going to just ride the momentum here of New England in owning the Jets. And until the Jets show me otherwise, I'm taking New England here -3 over the New York Jets.
I have to agree with you, Ross, on that one. And it's the exact same reason. As I probably have said before here, it's no different than playing roulette. Okay, is that you can bet if black hits 12 times in a row and you want to bet red because you know it's due, well, good luck. You know, you might be right, but you know, I'm you know, trends. The old expression, trends can be your friends, and so that's exactly what this looks like. And until they prove different, I have to agree.
Yeah, and that's coming from Doug Upstone, one of the finest handicappers in the country. His records prove it. He's been monitored independently, like me. He's won several awards. The list is very long. Okay,
93 top 10 finishes, as a matter of
93
fact.
top 10 finishes, 2-0 on our channel last week. And anybody who wants to challenge me and go against Doug going forward, you know how to reach me. My phone number is right on my website. Anyway, until the next time, for Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, I like to wish each and every one of you, we like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. Good luck and God bless, folks.